Ladies, gentlemen, and whoever else might be watching, it's time to learn how to create demo audio. That's right. So this will most likely be the audio that goes behind your video. So be thinking in terms of that, because you will want a video up there and not just an audio file for them to listen to. You can do that. If all else fails, you could create it needs to be a video. You could create a video with just a still picture or a series of still pictures with this running behind. But if you can get more creative, like what we were talking about, whether that means hiring somebody to do the video or learning one of those software programs to do the video, that's, kind of what needs to happen. But let's talk about the actual audio itself. Now, again, I'm in Audacity here because I'm assuming that's probably what most of you will be using, at least until you decide to upgrade to something else like Adobe Audition, which is what I use. So again, I'm not in my familiar environment here. So I may not be showing you the most efficient way to get this done, but it will work, and it's fairly quick. And I guess the biggest thing that I'm going to show you here that I'm not familiar with, have an area of expertise with, is using the effects, specifically the equalization. The reason that I'm going to show you the equalizer here is because since you're making a demo with basically several different types of reads in it, hopefully, or at least different spots, different examples, sometimes tweaking the EQ or the equalization on it can help just make it sound a little bit more like, hey, these were really used somewhere. This isn't just them sitting down and reading a script straight through. It's really, hey, they did this job, they did this job, they did this job. You're not saying you did it. It's not like you're misrepresenting, but changing the a little bit more highs in this one, a little bit lows in this one, just changing the sound. Now that's an advanced thing to do, and you absolutely don't have to do it. I'm just going to walk you through it anyway, at least on a cursory level. All of this stuff with Audacity, the ins and outs of it, you can take, if you know you're committed to Audacity, take the time to go take, online tutorials, whatever, to get to be very proficient in whatever tool you use. That will obviously help your workflow and all of that. But let's just go through some basic stuff here. Now, I walked through in a different video the basics of recording and editing in Audacity, so I won't go through all of the setup and all of that again. And really, this is just a couple of little pieces on top of that. Now, here's a couple of different approaches you can take to doing this. And this is going to also include how to add music and mix music in here. So this is kind of a double whammy tutorial here about Audacity. I'm going to now put on my headphones so I can hear what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do, excuse me, is I'm going to record. I'm not even reading a script right now. I'm just going to record myself talking and pretending like I'm doing different segments so that I can show you how to do this. Now, the first way you can do this is just like any other spot. You've got your script. You're going to read it all the way through, no stops. So let's just do that for an example. Again, I'm not reading anything. I'm just making it up. Hi, I'm Bob Doyle. Welcome to my gig page. I'd like to be your voiceover person because I can talk like this, or I can talk like this, or I can talk like this. And I can read spots in all sorts of different energy and pacing and whatever it is you need. Unless, of course, I don't feel like doing it, in which case I'm going to tell you to find another. Okay, I'm getting a little carried away. All right, so now there you've got your base thing. Now you would do any edits, take out the parts that you don't want or whatever. Now, once you've got it error-free, you can either go right into adding music, which I'm going to do right now, or you can do the more advanced thing, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. Now, to add music to this, of course, you'll want a music track, and wherever you get that, either they provide it, or you've signed up with Audio Blocks, or you have access to some other royalty-free music that you can use. In Audacity, all you need to do is import that audio file. So I think you can't see the menus pop up in Audacity for whatever reason in here, but I'm going under File, and then I'm choosing Import. It's about halfway down, and then moving over to where it says Audio. And there's a shortcut here for Control-Shift-I. You could just do that. I'm a big fan of shortcut keys. So if you're going to be importing stuff on a regular basis, you can just do Control-Shift-I. Same thing pops up. All right. Now, I know I have a piece of music in here called Business Freedom, which is chosen a lot. So I'm just going to choose that. It inputs it, and there it is on the track right under this. Now, if I play this right now, hi, I'm Bob Doyle. Welcome to my gig. You can't hear me. So we need to adjust the volume of this music track. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this icon up here next to the selection tool. This is your envelope tool. And here's how this works. Took me a little while to figure this out, by the way. Right now, if I just click anywhere along, you'll see this blue. Well, first of all, let me just point out that you'll see this yellow outline around this track. That means it is the selected track. So you want to make sure that you're working on the selected track. These little blue lines on the top and the bottom of each of these tracks, this is a left channel and a right channel, will allow you to create an envelope. Now, if you just start right now, you've uploaded the file, you click anywhere along this blue line, you click and hold. As you go down and up, you'll see this is representing the volume change. But something else that's happening when you click there is you're creating a little tiny dot. I don't know if you can see it there, but there's a little tiny dot there, and that's like an envelope point, which means now I can make another dot here, okay, and then that point, the first point, stays stable, and now I can move this point up and down, and that's how you would do a fade out. You see how magical that is? Okay, so let me see if I can just undo this. I'm going to Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. So I've got all back to where I started. Now, generally speaking, there's a couple of ways that you can mix music with things. You know, I come from radio, and there's a couple of different approaches you can take. One is that the music starts exactly at the same time as the voice. There's no 1 or 2 seconds of music and then the voice, because in radio, you don't have a couple of seconds to just throw away from music. You want content in there. When people ask me about music, I will almost always ask them, how much music do you want before and how much music do you want after the actual read itself? So I say in seconds. So that way I'm really, really clear and I don't have to do a do-over. So for the purposes of demonstrating fade outs and stuff like that, I'm going to pretend that they have asked for 1 second of music and then maybe 5 seconds of music after, okay, just to demonstrate how this works. So here's what we do. Right now, everything's starting kind of at 0 on the timeline, right? Okay, so we're going to need to zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. This is seconds, by the way. This is a second counter. So this is 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So right now you can see that the actual audio already starts right about the 1 second mark. But just for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to now select this empty space here and click delete. Okay, so now it starts there. Now I'm going to take the whole track and move it over so that the beginning is the 1 second mark. The way I'm going to do that is to click this little arrow here, the time shift tool, and move it over to 1 second. Okay, so now what happens when we play? Hi, I'm Bob Doyle. So you get 1 second of music and then the audio starts. Okay, and now let's say we said we wanted about 5 seconds of music after. So right now it ends around 21, let's say. So let's say that we'll end it at 26. There's several ways you can do this from my experience, but what we can really do here is just click the selection tool, go over here to about the 26 mark, select that all the way to the end. Let me make sure that I select all the way to the end, and then just delete. And then I'm going to scroll back down here, and you'll see that it's been cut off now, and I've got the 5 seconds there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move back to the beginning. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see what I'm doing. Oops, sorry. All right, so now here we are, all of this up to the 1 second mark. We want the music to start at full volume and then fade when the audio starts. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get the envelope tool. I'm going to go to this. I'm going to make sure that the music track is selected. And I'm going to click right before the audio starts and create a point in the envelope. And then I'm going to click another one here and move it down. See, so this means that the volume maintains all the way up to that point and then will go down to the volume level that I choose based on how low I bring this down and draw this envelope. So now let's listen. Hi, I'm Bob Doyle. Welcome to my gig page. All right, so see, I could still bring it down a little bit more, at least with the headphones. Now, here's a tip. Most of these people are not going to be listening on their headphones when they listen. They're going to be listening through the speakers on their laptop or their computer or whatever. So the thing about music, this is my experience, is it may sound like it's mixed one way in your headphones, but then when you listen over the speakers, you can't really hear it. It's not the same. So you want to listen over the speakers to make sure that there's enough music or that there's not too much music. So you want to hear what the mix sounds like. But right now in my headphones, I've just lowered this a little bit. Let's listen again. Hi, I'm Bob Doyle. Welcome to my gig page. I'd like to be your voiceover person. Okay, I'd still like a little more on there, okay? A little more of the voice over the music. So I'm going to lower it just a little bit more. Hi, I'm Bob Doyle. Welcome to my gig page. I'd like to be your voiceover person. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, so, and now we'll go to the end. And we're going to create 2 more points. One at the end of the talk. Let me see where it really ends here. Carried away. Okay, so because how about if I delete that stuff, because that's just, I'm being silly there. Nah, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. Just to demonstrate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, click the envelope tool, make sure that the music track is selected, and then right after I finish talking, make a little dot, and then another one, and then put it right back up. So you see it maintains this constant volume all the way through, and then when I'm done, it comes back up. And you can adjust, how, where that starts and all of that till it sounds good. Trial and error, you'll learn, okay? So that's how you add music to any spot, okay? So now we're going to take this up a little bit in terms of advanced. So that's your basic stuff, right? So you could create your whole audio, your whole demo, just like that. Record the script all the way through, take out the mistakes, so you've got a clean audio track, and then add whatever music you want to. Okay, and if it's the same piece, you'll do exactly what I did here. I'm sorry, over here, of course, you're going to want to, at some point, maybe fade this out. So I'm going to create another point here, and then another point here, and just fade out. Okay, so so that's how you would do that. Now let's take it up a little bit. And we're going to talk about this whole EQ thing. And what if you need multiple pieces of music? Because if you're really demonstrating like, hey, I did all these spots, each section, each little spot that you demonstrate would have its own music behind it, right? Because you're having them listen. And each one might sound a little different because it's suggesting that, oh, I recorded this one in this studio, I recorded this one in this studio, or whatever. It's all psychological. You're not really saying any of this stuff. It just it's a psychological thing that happens in the listener. So it sounds like a lot of different sessions combined into one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom out here. And there I can see my entire session. Now remember, I'm going to go ahead and mute the music track for now. And I'm just clicking mute to do that. So I can just concentrate on the audio track. So let's listen to it again from the beginning. Hi, I'm Bob Doyle. Welcome to my gig page. I'd like to be your voiceover person because I can talk like this. Okay, so I can talk like this is supposedly like my first example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select just that piece, okay, of that script. And then I'm going to go under Effect, and I'm going to click on Equalization. Now, this is a really strange equalizer plugin for me. I've never seen one that looks kind of just exactly like this. So I'm familiarizing myself with it. But again, you can play with this. But basically, we're looking at the spectrum of lows, the low parts of the audio, all the way up to the highs. Okay, so these lower numbers here, 20 hertz, 40 hertz, that's like the low end, all the way up to the 1000 hertz, which is the high end, the more treble. So think bass and think treble. So if you want to bring up the treble a little bit, so maybe it sounds too bassy, you're going to want to up stuff over here. So it's the same kind of deal. You're going to create dots, just like the volume. Okay, so now there's a dot and there's a dot, and now I'm going to up the volume. So listen, I can talk like this. So it adds a little bit of treble. Let me really pop it up so you can hear. I can talk like this. Hopefully you can hear the difference in there. So now if I go ahead and say okay, this part of the script will have a slightly different tone. Let's listen. Per person, because I can talk like this. You see the difference, how it suddenly got a little bit higher? Let's do an extreme example here. Let's see what's going on here. Or I can talk like this. Okay, so now I'm going to select that again. I'm going to click on equalization again. Again, I know you can't, I'm remembering that you can't see these pop-ups, but you're going to click on effect and then choose equalization. And now this time I'm going to bring up the lows and preview. Or I can talk like this. So that makes it a little bit more bassy. Oh, did I do it? I can't remember. I don't know what I clicked. Or I can talk like this. Sounds like I did. Okay, so now we have this. I'd like to be your voiceover person because I can talk like this. Or I can talk like this. And now let me do an example of the mid-range, popping up the mid-range. So again, I'm going to select it, click Effect, click Equalization, and now I'm going to pop it up here, just in the middle. Preview. Or I could talk like this. I'm sorry you even had to hear that. Let me pop that up a little bit more.
Or I could talk like this.
All right, if you can see up here, that's making it too loud. It's now popping the meter, so you don't want it to go that high. One of the things you can do if you want to accentuate one, like the mids, the middle, but you don't want to pop it up that high in the volume so it blasts, you would also de-accentuate the lows. So we'll bring down the lows, we'll bring down the highs.
Or I could talk like this.
Now, if you just focus on on the middle, it sounds kind of muffled, almost like it's coming through a phone. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'll go ahead and click OK. And you can see right here that that's still, I probably put too much on the highs there. On the middle. Too much volume in the mid-range, because now you'll see that this gets suddenly really loud. This.
Or I could talk like this.
So you want to tweak that. So that's basically the idea there. So you would just go through the various sections of your script and change the EQ slightly. Again, totally optional, especially if you're mixing different music behind each one, because that will also help to just change the mood and say, hey, I'm listening to something different. So now what you're going to do is now just add different music tracks and line them up underneath where you want them. So for example, here, let's say that this audio, I'm going to unmute this audio track now and get to the envelope tool. Let's see. So we'll go ahead and let this run up until the point where I do that first clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, I think is it here? I'd like to be your voiceover person because I can talk. Okay, so like right here, because I can talk like this, I'm going to select this whole thing to the end. I'm going to delete right there. Now, I'm going to import another piece of music. So I'm going to go File, Import, Audio. Again, you can't see any of that. And now, let's see, I'm going to just load in another piece of music, completely different. Fun guitar and ukulele. And now you see that appears on still another track here. So what I'm going to do, let me see if I can shrink this up a little bit. I don't know if I can. Yeah, well, that's too much. So now what we want to do now is create a music change at this point. So what we can do is just take this audio file and move it so that the beginning of this one maybe slightly overlaps the end of the first one, because that way we can fade out of the first one and then fade into the second one at the same time. So how do we do that? Well, I'll bet you know, but let's go through it anyway. So I'm going to zoom in now to that crossover point, and you'll see here's where it overlaps. So I'm going to use my envelope creation tool, and I'm going to create a point here and a point here at the beginning, because I want this to basically, I want this to fade in while this one up here is fading out. But I won't have it this loud because we already know that it's going to be up underneath some voice. So it'll fade in this way. Now up here, just clicking up here will change you to that track. Now I'm going to click on that point that we have, and then now fade this one. If I can get it, come on. Fade that one down. So now this is going to fade out while this fades in. I'd like to be your voiceover person because I can talk like this, or I can talk. All right, so or I could talk like this, I would just do the same thing. Just keep adding music and keep adding tracks. It'll just kind of keep going down that way. So I'm pretty sure there are ways that you can, besides what I would, there you go. You can just sort of shrink the size of the track so you can fit more on the screen by just clicking and dragging at the bottom. So depending on how many pieces of music you have, it would just keep building tracks. Now, most of the time, you're only going to use one piece of music for a job. This is a very unique thing we're doing. We're creating our demo, so we will be most likely using different pieces of music. But that's the basic idea, guys. That's it. So how to add music, how to do different takes and all of that. Let me show you one other thing in terms of recording your original piece which is an approach you might take. I'm going to go ahead and delete this track. You just click the X's and the tracks go away. All right, so now I'm going to record a new track, and this time, instead of like doing it all the way through, let's say I've got 4 scripts. I'm going to record one script and then another and then another, and this is how we can do it in Audacity. So I'm going to record. Here's the first one. I'm doing it right now. Okay, you can actually record. Here's the first one. I'm doing it right now. And now I'm going to mute this one and record the next one. And here's the second commercial that will come in the chain, and I can do EQ to this track. Stop it, mute, do another one. And finally, the third example of the voices I'm going to use will be right here. Okay, so now you've got 3 different things that you can line up. Now you can do it any number of ways. You can keep them in separate tracks like this and use this tool up here to like move this one here and then move this one next in the chain, and you can apply, effects to this track, effects to this track, effects to this track. Or you can actually, and I've done it there, you can just click and drag up and just put it all on one track. Because remember, all you have to do to be able to do different equalization settings for each one is just select it. Select where you want to put the EQ. So sometimes it's easier just to keep everything on one track rather than have all these tracks built up. But if you'd rather record it in pieces, you can do that too. So the idea now, you've got your final thing. Let's pretend you've got your final thing. And now, just like any other audio file, you're going to export the audio as an MP3. And then you're good to go. Now with that, you would give that MP3 to whoever's creating your video, or you would use it as the background for your video and then time your video elements up with that. That's what I do. So I create the entire audio track and then build my video presentation around that, build the video elements to synchronize with that. If you're going to go to Fiverr or something, you tell them, this is it. I want different graphics to show what I'm really kind of talking about here. Whatever you want to do creatively there, just give them that instruction. But that's the main thing. And now you've got that audio. I want to give you another recommendation too. Now remember, on these audios, somewhere in them, you must say exclusively on Fiverr. Okay? So what I do is I do a version with that and without Fiverr, because I'm often asked by buyers, can you send me a demo that doesn't say Fiverr on it? Because they are representing a client and they don't want their client to know they're going to Fiverr for voiceover. So they just want a voice demo that doesn't say Fiverr in it. So I do 2 versions. And so when people request that, I send them the version that doesn't say exclusively on Fiverr. So when you're writing your script, just keep that in mind. Okay, if you have any questions about this, be sure to post them. But this is basically the overview of how you start to create how you totally create your audio demo, which will be the audio for the demo video that's going to start making you money. Okay? Please let me know if there's anything I can do to flesh this out for you.